everybody, and finally we're at the third of my 3 clips to do with breathing, and this time we're looking at breathing and pelvic floor, but also I'm going to give some other little exercises for the pelvic floor as well. So it's a really big topic, addressing pelvic floor dysfunction or getting the pelvic floor really fit for purpose. And what I wanted to do today is give exercises that don't substitute for going to your GP or a specialist physio, but what they are is exercises that we can all do. They're gentle, they're simple, and they have other benefits. And often what pelvic floor needs is calmness and gentleness, and not to be kind of beasted out of existence by being too kind of squeezed. The Kegel exercises have their place, squeeze and release, but this is a kind of another element of the approach to getting our pelvic floor working really well. But first of all, the breathing. And why the breathing? Well, I'll post another breathing clip onto the end of this one about how to optimise the breathing, but the reason it's so important is because the diaphragm, your main breathing muscle, you can't see it, but I'm sort of automatically going to the place where it is, attaches around your ribs and round to the front and the back. When you breathe in and the diaphragm contracts down, with every breath, every single breath, particularly when we breathe well and we breathe optimally, the pelvic floor relaxes, and then it contracts gently back and up on an out breath. So this is really important. It means that when you breathe well and take a bit of time out to just breathe calmly and just focus on the breathing, you are kind of taking an opportunity to get the pelvic floor functioning as nature intended. It's as simple as that. Breathe in, pelvic floor relaxes. Breathe out, pelvic floor contracts. But the devil's in the detail. We need good breathing. So check out my clip on the end of this for helping breathing. So you have to be a certain age to understand this next statement. This is a martini exercise, anytime, any place, anywhere. You can take time out and just focus on your breathing. You can do it sitting, which is why I'm sitting down today, but equally you could be lying on your back. You could be lying in any position, but I think it feels more exercisey if you're treating it as an exercise to be lying down on your back, knees bent, feet flat on the floor, or it works brilliantly in all fours. It's taken me years to do this, but if I am calm and focused and take really deep breaths, I can actually feel my pelvic floor activate. I used to think, yeah, right, whatever, when people said this, but no, it's really true, you can. But to develop, it's an awareness thing. It's not just the strength of my pelvic floor, it's the awareness. To develop the awareness of that, my pelvic floor, working in conjunction with the diaphragm, I finally got there. And that's quite a positive thing. But even if you don't feel your pelvic floor, just to know that you're working it, it's going in and out gently or contracting and relaxing when you breathe, is really quite powerful and quite positive. So that's the breathing. Yes, I'm back and I've moved, and here's 5 or so little extra exercises that you can gently start to improve, develop, optimise function in the pelvic floor. So the first one is a pelvic tilt. I'm going to demonstrate it in seated. If you've got them, 2 tennis balls, 2 spiky balls, or 2 fascial release balls, one under each of these things, your buttock bones. And what this does is just raise you up so you have more room for manoeuvre. That's all they do. You can do this exercise with no spiky balls as well. And here's my pelvic tilt. So I'm tilting forward. The thing you see is the back arch. Out, no, in, and out. So it's a mobiliser of the pelvic bones. It's an increased flexibility tool for the lower back. But to come back to the pelvic floor, the muscles, there's more than one muscle in the pelvic floor, and the most important place where they attach to bone is the tailbone, the very base of the spine. And when you pelvic tilt, the tailbone here tucks under this way and the other way, and then it tucks out this way. I'm kind of used to doing this. I can sort of, in my head, I can feel this. You don't need to be able to feel it, but if you embody the exercise, the tailbone is moving, and therefore your pelvic floor is moving. It is going, sort of getting longer and shorter relative to the front of the body, which isn't moving as much. How good is that? A very gentle exercise which starts to gently move the pelvic floor, get it wider and narrower, or sort of contract it one way and then in. Okay, there's a little variation on the theme. If you've got one spiky ball or a folded face cloth, works really well. So I've got one, actually I'm going to show you this. So I've got one spiky ball under one sit bone, so I've got an angle. I'm hoping you can see that. And this one chair, this one spiky ball, and I'm going up on the chair side. So do you know what, I'm going to move the chair for this so you can see a bit better. Lift up and lower. So the pelvic floor's pelvis is moving rather than the sort of north to south direction like before, it's moving sort of east to west. So the pelvic floor is being moved and stretched, only gently, but stretched and released on an east-west basis rather than north to south. Great, simple little exercise. Don't forget, I'm not going to show it, but don't forget to change the spiky ball and do the other side. So the next thing kind of partly pertains to the tailbone really. So come down into all fours if you can and do cat stretch. Yeah, just honestly, you could write an essay on the value of cat stretch or cat cow, but one of the things it does is it moves the tailbone, so it moves the pelvic floor. But to be honest, getting the spine more mobile is inherently kind of helpful, and getting the body gently moving. Okay, just if not everyone can manage on the knees and the wrists, so there's various alternatives. A wrist-free alternative, elbow cat, feels different but equally legitimate. Knee-free alternative, use a surface like this. You have to have your knees slightly bent. You can have bent knees or straightish arms. Word of warning, it's a little bit harder to do, but once you've cracked it, I'm making it look quite easy, aren't I? Once you've cracked it, you're sorted. If you're tolerating all fours, then there's a little companion piece to cat stretch, and this is it. It's a pelvis glide. Doesn't look like much. I'm gliding my I'm trying to keep my back straight, and I'm gliding my pelvis forward back. So this isn't child's pose, because the pelvic floor attaches to these things, buttock bones, and when you do this exercise, the buttock bones, the sit bones, widen slightly. So would you believe that doing this will again move the pelvic floor? It moves it in and out. It gets it moving. It gets it a little bit stronger under load, albeit gentle load of part of your pelvis. So, talking of this value of using the sit bones movement to work pelvic floor, another exercise that you may know, it has other guys as glute bridges. Would you believe that is useful for the pelvic floor? Because when you glute bridge, the sit bones move. You may not be aware of it, but they do. And you move the sit bones, you move the pelvic floor. Pelvic floor is under load of the assemblage of your body parts. So it's not like you're jumping up and down, but there is load as you lift. Pelvic floor moves in and out with your bridging. And of course glute bridge is ostensibly a strengthener of your big bottom muscles, your glutes, and pelvic floors need strong glutes. So you're kind of got to buy one, get one free. If you struggle with bridging because you're tight here, I hope you can still see me when you do this. It's not a great segue, me twisting like this on video, but if you put your feet up against the wall, it's often easier. I know I'm using a radiator, but a wall is just fine too. So So to recap so far, we've looked at using the breath to gently get the pelvic floor moving in a functional way. Then the movement of the tailbone, pelvic tilt, 2 directions, north-south and east-west. Then using movement through the sit bones via glute bridge to get the pelvic floor moving in and out. And with glute bridge, a little bit more load. So there's one other thing. A relationship we can exploit, and that is the connection between pelvic floor and a set of muscles called the external rotators. So classically we think of those muscles as the ones that do turn out of the leg. Okay? So I'm going to lie down and show you my favourite turning out the legs exercise. So it is, again, I think it's slightly enhanced with the spiky balls, but you don't need them. And you're bringing your legs up, rest of you is completely supported, and then you're turning out the thighs and going in and out. That's it. Okay? Turn out, go. Oh, it's out and in, isn't it? Out and in. If you're feeling more adventurous, you can straighten the legs and go out and in. Now I'm limited with direction because of the wall. I could actually go further. And the thing is to turn out and take the legs, and the key to this is to sense that. You could sense that you are so the pelvic floor is sort of reaching you in and out. Now that takes some doing mentally, and even if you can't think pelvic floor out, pelvic floor bringing the legs in, then just doing the exercise, ideally with more range than I'm producing, is going to really help. You can actually also do glute bridge, turn out, come down, that's another one. So you've got, how about that? You've already got pelvic floor working, and then you're giving it a little bit more work by turning out the legs. I absolutely love that version. So back to sitting. I keep moving around, don't I? This is the final one. And this is sit to stand or squat. Again, massively functional. It's going to keep the ankles, the knees, the hips moving. It doesn't necessarily feel like it, but it is a bottom strength exercise. And because of the movements of the pelvis and the sit bones, it will also use your pelvic floor. The pelvic floor moves in and out under load of much more body weight. So if you can't quite manage squats, then sit to stand. There we go. Okay, if you're feeling more adventurous, then you can do your basic squat. What to do with the arms, eh? I kind of these days, I tend to teach, pretend you're deadlifting, which is when you pick a barbell up, as opposed to having the arms either forward. So be mindful of your breathing. It's the first time I've referred to breathing since the beginning of the clip. I wouldn't worry about particularly the order of the breathing, but do keep breathing. And if you have issues with your knees, it impacts your squats, but you can't quite, you want more than sit stand, but you're not quite ready for full squats, then you can hook your fingers around something. And I've got my Pilates Wonder Chair here because it's really solid, and I can hold here at the edge. And when I have body weight here, I can get a little bit lower with less strain through the knees. Okay, so that's another way of doing squats. You have to have something really secure though. Okay, I cannot stress to you, it has to be secure. You saw there maybe that my Wonder Chair just moved a little bit. So there we have it. Introductory exercises for starting to gently move the pelvic floor. Do you know what? Maybe that's what it needs. Maybe our nervous system and the pelvic floor needs to start with gentle movement, and then we can move on to kind of bigger things. And yes, it all starts with the breath. So thank you for listening, and cheerio. Hi there. I do hope you found this clip useful. We've got plenty more on the site, and for now I've suggested another one for you to watch.
If you want to know more about what we do in Leeds, then do visit the website at pilates-leeds.com, and right now you can subscribe to the YouTube channel and we can do this all again next month. Cheerio!